All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is Career Lab Wednesday. I am your host, George Miller. I'm here almost every week of the year. I like to help people develop in their careers. And I look at a career as a place where you have the opportunity to really develop who you want to be. I think it's a helpful reframe from work being something I have to do to being work is a thing that I want because it helps me develop myself and helps me engage meaningfully with the world. Oh, here we go. We got some folks joining in. So as I'm launching this, I want to set some context for everybody. I love it when you jump in directly. Welcome, Nick. Welcome, Luz. I love it when people join in here directly, and I can work with you one-on-one that way. But if you're not able to join in and you're just watching on the live stream, you can always type your questions and comments into the comment section, and I will do my best to help you that way. But as if you've watched in before, sometimes I'll go off track and you might need to say, no, George, I meant more like this, and get me back on track with you. And as I'm talking about emotional intelligence and burnout and that kind of thing today, I do want to say that I open the floor to all questions. So you don't have to stay on topic. If you got a question about your resume, interviewing, or just the purpose that you wanting more purpose in your career, anything career related is fair game. I welcome all questions. So thanks for joining in, and I'll be sharing some more as we get going here. But I want to check in with Nick. Nick, I see you're on camera here. I love your glasses.
Thank you.
Oh man, where'd you get those?
Here in Chicago. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I love them. Well,
Thank
Nick,
you.
good to see you again. What's happening? Is there anything that you're joining in today that you are looking for help with specifically?
I'm curious about the topic of the meeting that you set up, because I do believe emotional intelligence is very important for any role in any organization. And sometimes it feels like the more you do, the less rewards you get, you know. But then again, we're all humans, right? So we all have to have some kind of empathy to things and life, right? But that is not always the case. But, I'm curious
Okay.
to see what others have to share with.
Well, so I'll talk a little bit about this, but if you think of a specific thing in your life or with somebody that you know that pops up for you, let me know.
Okay, I
Let
will.
me know.
For
So
sure.
there's I'm going to start with a story with somebody I was in a session with this morning who has launched a business, and they're doing well, and they're getting to the point now where they are looking at, okay, I really need to have systems in place where I can scale. And part of what they do in their business is they say that they want to have authentic conversations with people, and they take risks. So they're in financial planning. And so they are deciding to step into kind of a mentorship coaching role with more of their clients, thinking long term. They want their clients to be around for years and really build something with them. So they took a risk in a communication where they shared something vulnerably about themselves. So they're working on their emotional intelligence, and they say, okay, cool, I'm working with George. I've got a way that I can possibly deepen this connection. So they share something vulnerably. And then after the meeting, they were like super amped up. And they found themselves not going on to the next to-dos on their list. And they're like, no, I can't have this happen. I need to stay on track with the things that I need to do to build my business, but I'm like emotionally overloaded right now with what I just did. So there's so much in what's already happened here. First of all, they are paying attention to their feelings. in the meeting with their client, they paid attention to the fact that they felt afraid. And they did an assessment and said, you know what? I'm going to share this concern that I have with this client. They didn't have to. It would have been more business as usual if they had not said anything at all. But they said, you know what? I'm going to take a meaningful risk with this client. I think I have enough of a relationship that this is going to be a good thing to do. So already we're talking about somebody who's using their emotional intelligence. They take that risk. And then in that process, they find themselves feeling, they might have said, oh, I'm emotionally dysregulated. And now I don't know how to continue with the rest of my day. And so now they're starting to criticize themselves for their emotions. Well, what they did instead was they reached out. So right there, they did something different than they would have in the past. In the past, they probably would have gone to their refrigerator, said, you know what, it's time for an early lunch. But they caught what was going on. So already they're emotionally intelligent. Then they took another step and they said, I'm finding that I'm yawning a lot right now, and I'm criticizing myself for that. And they're like, wait, what if I just let that happen? And they found themselves taking deeper breaths. And then as they allowed that to happen, they then were able to say, you know what? I can see how I took a meaningful risk. It brought up all kinds of feelings for me. I just let myself be with these feelings more. And now it's not burnout. They were like, I would label this before as, oh, something's wrong. But now I'm seeing this as valuable information. And oh, I just had an insight for the next meeting. Great, I'm going to make note of that. I'm going to make sure that some things are covered. And I don't think they would have had that insight. They would not have planned ahead for the next week in that meeting. It's like they already are in great shape for next week's meeting because they let themselves, be with the feelings, allow those feelings to give them valuable data instead of running away from it. So the truth is that as this person's getting going, their business is going to grow so fast, and them learning how to be increasingly with their emotions to then train more people, etc., is going to be like the most important thing for themselves as they grow. Because otherwise, yes, it would turn into burnout. They would be trying to do too much. They would feel afraid, and instead of being present with that fear and allowing the fear to highlight what really needed to be addressed, they would overmanage. They would micromanage. They would helicopter, and they'd piss off their new staff. That's going to happen anyways. But that they're aware of it and not avoiding it is really the key thing. So Nick, I'm curious. I want to check in with you and see how what I'm sharing so far is landing for you.
It does. I think obviously what you're talking about, maybe I'm wrong, but they're building a trust, right? They're trusting each other. They're opening up, and that's critical in business, right? And that makes you more at ease, and that's how you build good relationships, good building business relationships, right? And even friendships. So I'm all for it, but there are times that you try your best and it doesn't go anywhere, but it has to go both ways, right? It has to be a mutual feeling of two people being able to open up that way, and that takes time.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, it does take time. There's a few things that you can do to speed this up. Well, there's a lot of things, but one that comes to mind is to learn personality styles so that I
Mhm.
can quickly identify the other personality style that I'm talking to. I'm an energizer. I am kind of gregarious. Um, and if I'm talking to somebody who is more of an analyzer personality style, one of the things that I'm aware of now is that I will think they are criticizing me just because they're not smiling.
Yes, yes, yeah. There are some people that just block you,
Yeah, and
and you're like, oh my gosh.
but no, but they're not. But that's the thing, is that they're not actually blocking me. I
Right.
just make it up. And if I'm unconscious to the fact that I'm making this up, then I start criticizing myself more and more, or I might even start criticizing them. And then we never get past a certain point. And so if
Mhm.
I'm able to say, oh, calm down, George, I don't need to smile so much. I'm going to speak more slowly and calculated. Now it's like I'm speaking Spanish or Chinese, like I'm speaking a different personality style language, and other people appreciate that. Like, and so now I'm able to, that's just a little step that I can take to help develop rapport and move things a little faster. Thank you, Jane, for throwing that in there. Yes, I've got a personality assessment. Takes like 10 minutes to do, and then there's a quick video. Because the real point of doing a personality assessment is so that I can better understand myself and then identify other personality styles. When I did a speaking engagement recently where I was with a lot of CFOs and accountants, and they're
Oh
the
my goodness.
analyzers. So it was like my worst nightmare. I'm in a room full of people who would not, it's just not how they're going to do it. So, but I know this, and I'm able then to say, okay, if I get a couple of head nods, I'm doing really well. Okay. And I can translate for myself what's going on. Now, another thing about this is I'm going to make a jump here to um existential philosophy. So, the existentialists say basically we're either living or we're dying. You could go look at what's that movie with Robin Williams back in the early 90s, Carpe Diem, whatever that one is, Dead Poets Society.
That
You know,
part,
this
yeah.
this idea that while I'm here on planet Earth, if I'm not learning and developing and growing, then I am moving in the other direction. And so if I can hold that, then burnout happens when I'm pretending like I'm not learning and growing. Burnout happens if I'm trying to maintain and keep things the same, and I'm refusing to be with what's developing. And for anybody who lives in the world, but maybe especially the United States of America, that's a problem because we change a lot. I mean,
Mhm.
we move at a breakneck speed. If you look at terms of history, I mean, we move quickly. So we are always changing. And I may or may not like a lot of things that are happening in at any given moment. But if I refuse to be with the fact that things are changing, then I will move into burnout. And so one of the key things to look for is something called the drama triangle. I do have a video on that as well. This is Stephen Cartman came up with this. He was a student of Eric Berne. And the thing that's so important to understand about the drama triangle is it's not a question of whether I'm in it or not. I am in it. as a human being on planet Earth, I am in drama. It's such a part of life, but I can catch where I'm in drama, and then I can step out of it. I know I'm making a jump here, but when I refuse to recognize how I'm acting like a victim, a persecutor, or a rescuer, that's when that's where I start going into burnout. And an example of this, I'll bring in 𝐚𝐳𝐽 and McKee. They wrote a book called Resonant Leadership, that fantastic look at growth, and they have a whole section on burnout. And what they find is that a person, they studied teachers, a teacher who says, I'm going to go work with students for 8 hours and that's it. We're looking at like students in really challenging environments. And that's it. I'm just going to do my 8 hours and then I'm going to go home and unplug. They found that those teachers burnt out. Now, the other kind that burnt out were the teachers who went in and tried to do it all and said, oh yeah, I'm gonna get to know the parents. I'm gonna work like 100 hours a week. I'm gonna do things on the weekend. Those teachers burned out. There's a very small category that did not burn out. And those are the teachers who did go above and beyond, but they did set limits, but they recognized the reason they got into teaching in the first place is they like to make that kind of a difference. They find that work meaningful. And so their way of unplugging wasn't to go watch Netflix. Their way of unplugging was to go volunteer at their church or their community garden and then apply everything that they're learning in school in the really challenging environment to another environment, and they could see themselves like rock stars. They're like, oh my gosh, like I organized this thing, like it was so easy to do. And they get off on that. That's the thing that's driving them. So then God, it'd be great to do a study of like somebody who's in a very different how executives in organizations, what really inspires them. So it's not about saying, oh, I need to take a break. Like vacations and breaks do not necessarily help combat burnout. Because like, I don't want to go on a cruise. I don't want to go sit on a beach in some like place in Mexico. Like that's not my idea of a good time. I really don't. And so if I was going and doing this thing, I'm not actually getting nourishment from it. So each person has their unique way of getting nourishment, of what excites them. And it's by paying attention to that I don't get burned out. And one of the key factors in not getting burned out is paying attention to my emotions. My emotions are the thing that are going to highlight to me what I like and don't like. If I'm not paying attention to that, another client, lo and behold, he's finding that he had this mindset of I'm going to retire. I'm looking forward to retirement. Can't wait till I retire. And he's getting burned out in his career because it's so hard. and as we dug into it more, he starts to realize that he really likes knowing how he makes a difference. That's actually what is inspiring to him. And he wasn't aware of how he was doing. He just felt like he was going through the ropes in his career, and he's doing good, but he wasn't able to see the overall impact that he was having until he started paying attention to his feelings and saying, oh, you know what? I felt hurt in that last interaction that I had with a new hire. Oh, you know what? And I felt hurt about it because of I got the sense that whatever I was doing wasn't really helping them. And now as he's looking at himself this way, instead of just, because he's so smart, he could just jump over a lot of things. He could kind of, he can move so fast. As he's learning to slow down and be with his feelings more and get more out of the sticky interactions that he has, he used to just like be able to move past them too quickly. As he's learning to stay in there, he's finding his meaning and purpose in those interactions. He's like, it's like, George, I don't know, like I reached out because I was looking at, trying to retire quicker. He's like, I don't know that I really want to retire anymore. I was like, huh, So what he thought was burnout was basically, we're going to boil it all the way down, was him avoiding his feelings in the moment with other people. And that will lead to burnout. If I'm trying not to be with the data that's happening in communications, it's like living life, with a foot on the gas pedal and a foot on the brake all the time. Like it hurts, it burns me out. So by learning to be more present with my feelings in interacting with other people, I will start to get the signals back to me and understand myself and understand the world around me with more clarity and say, oh, okay, this is what actually brings me satisfaction. For some people, it might be sitting on the beach, like some people, it's probably golfing and having the conversations while they're golfing. Like that's a fantastic thing for them. Like everybody's going to have their different way of finding meaning, but our feelings are a key thing to understand about ourselves. The way I've been working with Maharishi International University now. And so Maharishi, who I totally think was the inspiration for Yoda, and a lot of other people think this too. One of the things he said that I really liked was, oh, thoughts are slaves to emotions. And so instead of me thinking, oh, I need to get over my emotions, is to say, oh, what if I just really let myself be with my feelings more and get the valuable data from that and see how my emotions are influencing my thoughts? Wow. Well, then it's like I might be a little better of a captain to this ship, which is my life. If I really allow myself to get into the inner workings of me. So I've talked a little bit about this now. I'm curious, Luz, how do I say your name?
Luz, it's okay.
Luz, welcome. Good to have you here. Are there any questions that you've got? Anything that you're working on that you'd like some help with?
Oh, thank you. Thank you first for having me here. It was so great having this invitation to be on your season. You talk about different topics that I am working with my team right now that were really interesting for me. One of those were about micromanagement. Yeah. So, how do you manage that, or how do you suggest to work with your team to avoid micromanaging?
Okay. Luz, are you willing to dive in deep real fast?
Absolutely.
Okay. What's your do you have siblings, older or younger?
Both of them.
Older and younger, so you're in the middle?
Yes. I am the sandwich.
You're the what?
The sandwich.
Oh, the sandwich. Cool. Cool. And are you in your career, would you say that you're in more of a leadership position than your siblings?
Yeah. I am in the project management area, so I have people that I am working with, and they have or identify some activities that we are doing a lot of micromanaging.
So you're getting feedback that you're micromanaging.
Yes.
Okay. So do you know how, so I want you to write down these 5 feelings: fear, hurt, anger, sadness, and joy. What's your first impression of these 5 feelings? What do you think about these?
Okay, I think those are when you have fear or you try to keep a part of things. And I don't know, it's hard for me, but I don't know exactly what are you looking for, or
Well, just
what do you mean
your,
exactly?
your first impression of those feelings. Just
Okay, those are like negative feelings.
okay. Got it. So right there, thank you, because you just made my point, which is most people, when looking at the 5 core feelings, what most people say is, well, there's 4 negative ones and 1 positive, which is what you just said. And that lets me know that already when you're feeling afraid or hurt or anger or sadness, that you are criticizing yourself for feeling those. On some level, you're saying, Luz, you shouldn't feel afraid. You shouldn't feel hurt about that. You shouldn't. And so you, at the very outset, you start suppressing the data that's coming in about what you're experiencing with other people. Is any of this landing?
Yeah, but I also think that it's not so bad to feel afraid or hurt or
Okay.
anger, because those are signals that there is something that you can attend. Because if you don't feel those, you don't have those feelings, for me it means that you are like in a comfort zone, and as
Yeah.
you said
Okay.
before, it didn't will allow me to grow.
Oh, cool. Great. Okay. So you're on that. So now when you are interacting with your team, because you're leading a team, yeah? What do you feel? What, especially around the idea of micromanaging?
I feel, uh, okay, I don't know if I am being selfish, but I think that my that the activities that I am doing are good. So I don't have problems with organizing my things, but mostly what I am looking for is to find some strategies to help them to avoid micromanaging.
Who's micromanaging?
My my subordinates
Your
or the people that
subordinate?
I am working from. Yeah, they
Okay,
used to do a lot of.
so you're not the one who's micromanaging, they are.
Yes,
Okay, so how would you help them not micromanage?
that is the question, because when even when I teach my strategies or the strategies that I have learned across uh, my experience, I cannot make them, or it's hard to me to make them to see the benefits of not micromanaging.
Uh-huh.
That is my hard part or my difficulty with them, how to show them the benefits of not doing micromanaging.
So Luz, my hunch is that you take an analytical approach with them and you
Mm-hmm.
give them a lot of details and you say, here's the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And to them, they're not hearing you.
Yes.
So How does that make you feel when they don't listen to you and they don't understand what you're sharing with them?
Yeah,
Hurt, anger,
sometimes
sadness, joy. How do you feel?
I think it's more sadness and anger, and then I start looking for another strategies. But yeah, I think it's more about it's not really hunger. I think I don't know the meaning of joy.
Joy? Oh, is like kind of like happy or relief.
Oh, that definitely that not.
Okay. Got it, got it, got it. So, and I want to make a distinction about anger and these 5 core feelings. The point is a benefit of saying these 5 to me is it's like I'm learning to be with deeper feelings. I'm in a corporate setting. If I'm working with a leadership team, I might not say I'm angry. I might say, oh, I'm frustrated. So you want to use whatever language is appropriate for your environment. And another thing that's key about anger is to understand that if I'm feeling angry or frustrated, it means that I'm also feeling afraid and hurt. As they build on each other. Fear is the primary emotion. Fear is the doorway through which I enter life. And fear comes, and then there's hurt. So I could imagine that you, on one level, you feel afraid as you're talking to your team, and what you're saying, they're not understanding, and there's a sense of concern. It's like, am I crazy, or do they hate me, or what's going on here? What is not being understood? So there's a sense of fear, and then there's always a sense of hurt before anger as well. And this one is like, especially for guys, is like, we're really not supposed to be aware of it, but it's there. And I have a sense of hurt. It's like if I instruct my team on something, on my expectations, and they're not doing it, like I feel hurt. Like what is it about me that you don't get, or I'm alone in this? And so there's the fear and the hurt very close there. And then the frustration or the anger, the function of anger is to move away from pain and towards pleasure. But most of us do not have these feelings that well integrated into our body and our way of being and communicating. And so the anger, and this is where burnout happens then, because I keep trying the same things again and again and again. My hunch is, Luce, that you're like, well, maybe if I explain it one more time. And so it's like you keep trying that, but it doesn't work. And that's where the burnout comes. So now the risk for you to take is to experiment with different ways of communicating your fear, hurt, and anger. And this is happening with all human beings all the time, with my friends, my wife, my family, my colleagues. I am feeling fear, hurt, anger, like all the time in little bits. It's little things. So now, Luce, after this, how might you communicate your fear or concern, your hurt, or maybe you might word that as being misunderstood, in a way that's appropriate for your environment, and your frustration? How might you communicate that to somebody on your team in a more direct way?
I like to talk directly to the people, one to one, and express things. I don't like to carry out conflicts, so I like always to keep the things straight because I consider that is the best way. So I cannot hide things or start talking with another people about those feelings. I like to address directly with the people that I think needs help, or if I need help, again.
Got it. So you're going to meet with people one-to-one?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Meeting one-to-one is often great because there's less defenses. In a group environment, then it's the likelihood that people are going to be more scared is high. So in a one-to-one conversation with somebody on your team, how would you use the emotional intelligence that we just talked about to take a little bit of a risk with them to have them understand your frustration more?
What do you mean?
So I'll pretend. I'm going to pretend that I'm you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking to somebody on my team.
Mm-hmm.
I might say, Esmeralda, I feel I'm concerned because we've talked about micromanaging several times, and I'm still seeing the same behavior. So I'm afraid that like I'm not communicating in a way that you're understanding. Help me understand what you need from me that would help you be more successful.
Okay. Yeah, I applied something like that. Something that I did is let me know what things, or like your wishes. I work with them like a wishes list of some strategies that we could start implementing, or that things that they consider we could modify, and that will help them to reduce those activities.
So Luz, you said you're pretty open.
Yeah.
Can I give you a direct feedback right now?
So should I be more strict?
Well, I'll tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Is what you just did was you went to the analytical very quickly, and you did not include yourself in what you just said. You didn't say I feel concerned. You didn't. You went immediately to. If you said what you just said to me, and I was on your team, the way that I heard it was, uh-oh, there's something wrong with me. Luz is trying to fix me. So my defense system went up immediately. And I immediately was now like, I'm now scared, and I'm not really aware of it, and I don't understand you as a person. Whereas if you said something like, Esmeralda, I'm concerned because we've talked about this, and I think I'm not really helping you develop as the type of leader that we need. So help, and do you see how you're including yourself in that? You're making it mutual. You're not equal, because you are their boss. And that's, I think sometimes people get a little confused about that. There, whether it's good or bad, there is a hierarchy in our world. People are older than other people, and people have more skills than other people. It's just a reality. But there are ways for you to communicate in a more mutual way. And that's going to usually mean that you take a vulnerable risk, a little micro vulnerable risk of saying, Esmeralda, I'm concerned. Because then they're able to see you as a human being in relationship with them, instead of somebody who's coming in to manage and fix them.
Okay.
Is this helpful?
Yeah, it's an interesting strategy.
And my guess is, Luz, that you feel more afraid saying something that directly, like, I'm concerned, and that when you feel more afraid, including yourself in the conversation. Yeah? And that's what I mean by friending your fear. See, this is a very different game than what a lot of the world is used to playing. Is we work very hard to not be with our feelings. So right now, Luz, as I'm talking with you, I feel afraid. And I'm afraid because I'm like, oh, am I really helping Luz? Is this really like of service to her? You know, and even when I said, Luz, can I give you, you said I can give you direct feedback. So I was feeling afraid, and I'm paying attention to that fear while I'm talking to you as a way to make sure we're on the same page. And then I felt a little hurt because I was like, oh, I just said all this stuff. And then Luz immediately went to talking about somebody and fixing. And I'm like, oh no, I felt afraid. I don't know if Luz really heard what I said. And I feel kind of hurt because I feel kind of missed in this moment. And now I'm feeling joy because she's smiling and laughing as I'm saying this.
I'm so sorry to make you feel hurt.
Luz, I appreciate that. I really do. And the reality is that we're feeling hurt and afraid in communications all the time. There's I feel hurt and afraid with my wife, like immediately. If I come home and she's on her phone, like I'm already hurt. I'm already like, oh, you don't love me. You know, like that's already going on. So I appreciate it. And it's part of being human.
Yeah. It's so interesting, all these things that you are sharing with me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, thank you, because you're demoing this in real time. Like you're being incredibly vulnerable and sharing this, and I'm hoping that you're getting value from this and some ideas of new ways of engaging your staff so that you can get more of the results that you want, but also more importantly that you're helping them develop and become who they can be while you're developing and becoming who you can be.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to do a quick check-in with the room and a little stuff, but I got to say a huge appreciation to you, Luz, for that. That's I really admire you for jumping in and taking some coaching steps with me. That's fantastic. So, okay, we are getting some comments and things coming in here. So quick room reset. I am coming up on the end. I do have a session right at 1, so I got a hard stop. I do this type of coaching with people, and I've got online resources as well. For anybody who's joining in, I welcome you to set up a one-to-one time with me, book a 15-minute call. And sometimes I've got extra time and we can go a little longer. And I'm often able to help somebody kind of make sense of something important to them in that time. And if not, then we can talk about an ongoing coaching relationship and what that looks like. So I do one-to-one coaching and I do group coaching as well. And I am doing more public speaking too. So I'll throw that out there. I've had a few great events. So take a look at that. And I'm really excited about some of the what one of my clients calls emotional exposure therapy. It's not therapy. I don't do therapy, but an emotional exposure group where me and my clients, we're all together and we are taking on new behaviors. So for example, one person might have saying feelings in relationship to everybody else in the group. So as people are talking, they say, oh, I felt afraid about what you just said. Oh, I felt hurt by what you just said. Oh, and so they're breaking the social norms in that context so that they're developing that ability within themselves so that when they're at work, when they're in those meetings, they're not going to say it exactly that way, but it's like their consciousness expands and they can see the feelings happening at a much higher level around them than they were able to before. So I love that stuff because I get to see people's trajectory like go from like this to like that in there. So I have that I am inviting people to. We're meeting twice a month. I'm going to try to throw that in the chat in a moment too. Jane, if you would help with that. That is something I do. However, I do need to talk to you before entering in to get clarity on your goals and stuff. So if that's something that interests you, let me know. Okay, great. I'm getting some more things in here and I do need to wrap us up. We've got something. Emotional awareness truly is a superpower for leaders, isn't it? It fuels resilience and fosters stronger connections. Yes, I very much agree with that. If I am not having to turn down my emotions and I'm learning how to take meaningful risks with other people, it opens me up to more aliveness, more flow, and openness to life overall. Thank you, Jane. Yes, EQ Foundation's Friend Fear. And Jane, actually, would you throw in the other one? I don't know that we have it on the website yet, but the one that's the 2 options a week. Anyway, we'll see if we get that on there. In wrapping up, I want to check in with you, Nick, and with you, Luz, see if there's anything else that you're wanting in closing before I'm out of here.
No, this is good. It's, I can relate to that micromanagement situation because I used to have a supervisor that's all she did was micromanagement. And to me, that's a very insecure person, fear of delegating and not trusting the skills that I provided. So I changed that relationship, but communicating with her a lot of information to the details. So then she learned that it was her, the one that didn't trust the process, and that stopped. But it takes time. It's not get built over time, but it is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It is uncomfortable.
And I'm glad you said that because there's Luz, I think for everybody, with leadership, it always rolls downhill.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm micromanaging, then I'm training my staff to micromanage.
Right.
And so it's always that's just there's a lot of data back to me of okay, so how can I learn to let go more? Where do I need to learn to trust more? Oh, thank you. Yes, the Friend Your Fear Circle. Thank you. And then I see a question here, Luz, is there literature I recommend to work with emotions? Yes. There's a whole lot. What kind are you thinking, Luz? Like, there's a lot of research, so it's kind of like how in depth do you want to go?
I would like to start reading more on that part and see in which direction I have to go more deep.
I think one of the best practical books, one of the books I've looked at the most, is one written by two of my mentors, Dr. Bob and Dr. Judith Wright. They wrote a book called The Heart of the Fight. Now, it's not a business book, but business is relationship. So it's written in the context of like couples. But if you read it with the intention of applying it to business, you'll get the point. It'll be helpful to you in that way. So I recommend The Heart of the Fight. And if you want to go in, another book I recommend, it doesn't talk directly about emotions, but it's so helpful, is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Because when I read that book, I was like, man, this guy is a coach. Like, it's like he went to the same coaching schools I went to. And then if you want to go way back, Candace Pert, Molecules of Emotions. And so there's a lot of interesting stuff that emerged back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, I think especially the 70s, about how emotions are stored in our body. And I mean, literally chemicals. And so as I allow myself to feel more, this is one reason I do breath work with people and I take people into the ice water. Is in the ice water, thank you, Jane. In the ice water, it's impossible not to feel. So I'll take somebody in and the breath like pops in and all kinds of stuff awakens in their body. And so it directly gives them access to their emotions. And the things that people tell me afterwards are like, oh my goodness, I had dreams like I hadn't had in a while. I had all kinds of memories from childhood come back, some that, I wasn't so sure I wanted to remember that were painful, but I get it. It's helpful to be with that, and I can kind of reprocess this. So emotions, all this stuff is stored in our body, and every child can come onto the planet and can cry at full volume for hours and not get tired. But we start training children to lock it off. No, be quiet, stop. And so kids start freezing their muscles, freezing ultimately their diaphragm, and getting tighter. And so we, at a very early age, learn to shut our emotions down, because our emotions would ultimately make our parents feel uncomfortable. And our parents, are trying to do their thing. And, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. So it's just part of life. But as we choose to, we can then get in and unlock the emotions and start applying them in a healthier way for ourselves and in a more effective way in the world. So there's a whole lot of really cool stuff from the human potential movement and the 70s around this stuff that you could dig into. Just see how far down the rabbit hole you want to go, Luz.
Thank you.
And check out, I'll share a video. And one of the things I'm working on, I use this with my clients, is there's a whole thing here where each one of these is something that you can do a little differently in your life. And so we've got all these feelings assignments here and the power of compliments. So for a little bit, like a client will focus on, I'm just going to focus on giving more compliments and asking for compliments. And I'm doing it with the purpose of friending my fears more, of being more present with my emotions. And I noticed that I don't want to give compliments to certain people. What's that about for me? What happens when I give them compliments? Wow. I'm like, so it's all these different ways that you can engage with the people around you. And inside of these, then, there's this lesson, and then there's videos that just kind of talk through it. So this is something that I'm building out with my clients, because I'm getting sick of sending them all these articles and writings and things and videos. So check out my YouTube channel. And there's videos that I put up there that are like webinars and things that help people learn more about their feelings. And with that, I got to go. I got to get ready for my next session. All right, Nick, thanks for joining in. Luz, thank you so much, Luz. I really appreciate your questions and what you're doing. And I will be back next week. Until then, everybody, blessings. Take care.
Have a good week.
Thank you, Nick.